this example we're going to improve the presentation by adding a drop shadow and also adding a stroke. Now this is a layer style effect, so it's only possible for layers which are unlocked. So in this case we're going to have to double click to unlock the layer. I'm going to rename the layer at the same time. I'm going to call this layer Busy People. And now I'm going to reduce the size of the image within the layer by pressing the Command and T if you're on a Mac, or Control and T if you're on a PC. I'm going to hold down the Shift and the Alt key so I can reduce the size of this image in proportion, and then I'm going to press Enter when I am happy. Okay, now we've got some area here, this transparent area here, which we can fill with a nice plain white background color. I'm going to do that by first creating a layer, and this layer is going to be created by pressing the Command key at the same time, and this will actually create a layer underneath my Busy People layer. If I was to just press the new layer icon, the layer would be above, and then we would have to subsequently bring it down manually. But by simply pressing the Command key and the new layer icon, it automatically drops it at the bottom. I'm going to fill this layer here with white. Now I can do that by going to Edit and Fill, and we can select white and clicking OK, or I can quite simply press the Alt key and the backspace key, and that will give us our white background color. Now we click back on our Busy People layer, and this time we double click in the gap here, this space here where there's no text. If we double click on the text, we have to edit the name. If we double click on the blank space, we are presented with the layer styles box. Now here we're going to select the drop shadow, and it literally does exactly what it says on the tin. It actually creates a shadow, and you can adjust the angle at which the shadow falls, and this is also previewed here in this little box, and it gives the impression that the image is slightly almost floating above the background, and it gives it a little bit more of a realistic three-dimensionality almost, as an image would have if it was on a wall or in a frame. So we're going to adjust this angle, and I'm just going to have it off here, 53 degrees here. I'm going to change the distance so we can see the shadow a little bit more, and the spread, just to spread that shadow right out to the edges, and I'm going to soften the shadow and change the size, and also reduce the opacity. I want this effect to be fairly subtle, nothing too harsh, and really this kind of process here is all about doing things and moving sliders and just seeing what you get. It's kind of like trial and error and trusting your eyes to find something which you're happy with visually. So I think I'm quite happy with that. In addition to the drop shadow, I'm also going to come all the way down here to the stroke, and we touched on strokes earlier on in the creating borders and frames video episode. So we're going to use the stroke icon here. We're going to adjust this to inside, and I'm going to increase the size of my stroke to about 8 pixels. Now if I use the outside, I tend to get a rounded edge on the corners of my image. If I use the inside or the center option, I tend to get a sharper point, the inside giving the best results for that, in my opinion there. So I'm going to click on the color. I don't actually want it plain black. I'm going to sample the very dark grey in the image here and click OK, and then I'm going to OK that as well. So now we've got our drop shadow, which again is a layer style, so we can turn it on, turn it off. We've got our stroke, which we can turn on and off. The Busy People layer has both these effects attached to the image itself, so I can move the image with the effects at the same time. And now we've added a little bit more of a visual interest to our picture, and we can now save the image with all these effects applied to our picture.